Hello everybody, it's me, your good friend Sparky, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is possibly the greatest game of all time. I owe a lot to the Smash series as a whole. Without the original game on Nintendo 64, I may have not become the gamer I am today. My whole world centered around Mario and Pokemon games. I didn't know a thing about Metroid, Kirby, Star Fox, F-Zero, or Earthbound. That little 12-character fighting game helped introduce me to a world of video games that I had no clue existed. And as the series went on, it brought even more to my attention. Fire Emblem, Kid Icarus, the Game & Watch games. As the cast of characters grew, so did my knowledge of video games as a whole. It just kept going, and going, and wow. Holy crap. That's a lot of characters. And it's not just Nintendo characters either. The Big N really pulled out all the stops and brought in characters from all across the gaming spectrum. From old friends on the NES to newer faces from the more recent generations of gaming. We even have two characters in this game that are owned by freaking Microsoft. You know, the makers of the Xbox? As in one of Nintendo's biggest competitors? From the humble duck hunt dog to the biggest boss of them all, Sephiroth. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has done what no game has done before and what no game may ever do again. It's united some of the greatest faces in gaming history together under one banner. But the question here is, just how many different characters are there to choose from? You would think the answer would be easy to guess, but it's a little more complicated than just glancing at the character select screen. So let's dig a little deeper and see just how many different fighters you can choose from in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Ultimate features every single character from the history of Smash Bros. And then some. And conveniently, the characters are all numbered for us. As of the making of this video, there are 80 numbered fighters in Smash Ultimate, including all currently released DLC. And that is already pretty insane. It's even more insane to think that there are still 2 DLC fighters on the horizon. So, at a minimum, we'll have a base cast of 82 once the DLC is finally finished. The number of different fighters is a little confusing though. Fighter number 1 is Mario, but fighter number 18 is also Mario. Then there's Samus, and her good friend, Samus. And there's also 3 different guys named Link, and that's its own confusing mess. And then you have fighters bunched together into the same selection slot, like the Pokemon Trainers team and Pyra/Mythra. But regardless, this gives us a base number to work with. Once all the DLC is released, we'll have 82 individually numbered playable characters in Smash Bros. I mean, presumably. But regardless, where do we go from here? Better known to some as clones, Echo Fighters are a special classification of combatant who don't have their own number. Instead, they share a number with the character they were cloned from, and by extension share a moveset with, accompanied by a fancy little epsilon symbol. There are 7 characters classified as Echo Fighters in Smash Ultimate: Dark Samus, Daisy, Lucina, Chrom, Dark Pit, Ken, and Richter. This brings the total fighter number up to 89 combatants. One has to wonder why the likes of Chrom and Ken are considered Echoes, but then characters like Dr. Mario and Young Link aren't. And then you could even bring up that Marth technically has 3 other fighters that mimic him in one way or another. But I guess the number of fighters would be the same regardless, so it's not much of a problem. So, is that it? Are we done? We've got 89 different playable fighters, right? No, not quite. Let's keep going. A lot of different fighters are actually multiple faces rolled into one. The most apparent example of this is a gender swap, when you can switch between a male and female version of the same character. They may play exactly the same, basically being a glorified costume choice. But they almost all have their own designs, voice lines, and unique animations in some cases. One of the first gender-swapping fighters introduced in Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U was the Wii Fit Trainer. The female trainer was the default look you were initially given, but you can switch over to her male variant whenever you want. Following this, we had a male and female Robin, Corrin, and eventually Byleth, all hailing from the Fire Emblem franchise. Pretty straightforward so far, right? But it doesn't stop there. Let me ask you, do you know how to tell the difference between a male and female Pikachu? It's all in the shape of the tail. Male Pikachu's tails have a standard lightning bolt shape, while female Pikachu sport a heart shape at the end of theirs. That means Pikachu also has a gender-swapped counterpart included in his available costumes, which gives us another fighter. And on the subject of Pokemon, the Pokemon trainer has a female counterpart as well, but you don't actually play as the trainers themselves. Instead of being given one fighter number, the trainer actually has 3. Their 3 alternating partner Pokemon are classified as number 33, Squirtle, number 34, Ivysaur, and number 35, Charizard. So considering that would mean this particular gender swap doesn't add to the number of fighters, right? Let's consider some more Pokemon trivia. Did you know that every Pokemon trainer has their own 6-digit trainer ID number? This number is given to someone when they become a Pokemon trainer and is used in combination with their name to identify them. And this number is also assigned to the Pokemon they catch. Do you see where I'm going with this? That would mean the male Pokemon trainer and the female Pokemon trainer in Smash would have different ID numbers, and so would their Pokemon. Which means that the Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard controlled by the male trainer are different Pokemon than the ones controlled by the female trainer. And that means they're actually their own fighters, increasing our total by 3. Maybe you could say I'm reading into the technicalities a little too much, but trust me, I'm not even getting started yet. Let's conclude our talk of gender swaps with another fighter, Villager, hailing from Animal Crossing. Like other fighters, you can switch between a boy and a girl version, but it doesn't stop there. Each of the Villager's alternate costumes is actually a different, unique variant of the character. Which means Villager isn't just 2 gender options. They're actually 8 different fighters combined. This is also true of the Inkling fighter. The 8 costumes are 8 different Inklings, each with their own ink color and super fresh accessories. And to a lesser extent, this line of logic also applies to Steve and Alex, who have 3 unique variants each. This means when considering additional gender options among the entire Ultimate cast, we can add another 27 fighters to the total. That brings us up to 116 different characters. An astonishing number, but we're not quite done yet. Gender options aren't the only thing you can pick from in Smash Ultimate. Some of the different costumes characters have are actually different people entirely. The most obvious example is Bowser Jr., who has 7 different Koopalings as his alternate costumes. Still a bit of a genius design choice if you ask me, but Bowser Jr. isn't the only character with this distinction. Half of Olimar's costume choices switch him to Elf, one of the protagonists from Pikmin 3. And going back to the subject of Steve and Alex, their remaining 2 costumes are the Zombie and Enderman from Minecraft. And while they aren't referred to by name, the hero from Dragon Quest is 4 different protagonists in one. The Luminary, Erdrick, Solo, and 8. Yeah, that's his name, I guess. In addition to these fighters, when playing as the Ice Climbers, you can actually swap the lead climber by switching costumes. Which means both Nana and Popo are playable combatants. Now you might think that that would be it, and that I couldn't possibly go any further with this line of thinking. But you would be wrong. Let's go back down the list and keep on counting. Let's start with Link. We already know he's got Young Link and Toon Link to be confused with, but there's also 2 more Links within his costume choices. Both Fierce Deity Link and Dark Link can be chosen from. While their designs don't totally match their games of origin, it's pretty apparent who they're supposed to be. And we can also add the Dark Link versions of Young and Toon Link to the mix as well. It seems only fair to count them. Speaking of different Links though, do you recognize Toon Link's red, blue, and purple alternates? You should, because they're the other playable Links from The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords and 4 Swords Adventures. Kirby has another character represented in his costumes that I'm sure many overlook. Kibi, the Player 2 character from Kirby's Dream Course. This one comes from Mr. Sakurai himself, by the way. I'm not just grasping at straws here. And while we're talking about Kirby fighters, one of Meta Knight's costumes changes him into Dark Meta Knight from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. And another costume gives him the likeness of Galacta Knight, a legendary warrior and uber final boss character from the Kirby series. Another of Pikachu's costumes is actually a third Pikachu, the cosplay Pikachu, also known as Pikachu Libre. This particular Pikachu originates from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where you could dress her up in different costumes that would let her use unique moves. You couldn't trade or transfer to other Pokemon games, but she still took on a life of her own when she appeared as Pikachu Libre in Pokken Tournament. And while we're on this subject, Pichu has a unique costume like this as well, the spiky-eared Pichu from Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Again, she's a unique Pokemon locked to her game of origin, but she's still rather well known and adored by many. Next, we have Captain Falcon, who has a costume swap that actually changes him to Blood Falcon, his evil clone from F-Zero. Like with Link's alternates, it's not an exact design match, but the Hell Hawk insignia on the back of his jacket makes it plain to see who he's supposed to be. Come to think of it, why don't they make Blood Falcon an Echo Fighter of the Captain? That would be pretty awesome, actually. Here's an interesting one. Did you know that Bowser has a brother? Yeah, me either until I was researching this. Apparently, a blue Bowser from Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is actually Bowser's brother, and Bowser's blue costume is based on him. He's also referred to as a fake Bowser, but he's still an entity other than the King of Koopas himself. I didn't realize Bowser had an extended family like this. Maybe he's the Koopaling's father. And finishing this count off, Lucas has a costume that changes him into his twin brother Claus. Not much else to say about this one. Except that if you know anything about Mother 3, you're probably experiencing an emotional crisis right now because of this subject. I know I am. Okay, deep breaths. Right. With all of those fighters added up, that gives us another 29 combatants, giving us 145 different fighters. But that's all of them, right? Am I done sifting through the alternate costumes? I couldn't possibly come up with any more, could I? Wrong again, silly boy! Let's revisit the idea of Mario and Samus being two different characters at the same time. There's a few more fighters like this that we can add to the list when looking at their costumes. Let me ask you something. Do you like time travel? Because some of the characters seem to pull an Ocarina of Time when they change costumes, switching between different versions of themselves from different points in time. For example, Ike swaps between his younger and older self from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn respectively. He even has different voice lines between the two versions. Cloud switches between his look from Final Fantasy VII and the 2 years older version of himself from Advent Children. The costume swap also gives him a different Final Smash, though it's only a visual difference. Then there's Bayonetta, changing between her appearances from both Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. Though the time jump here is actually only a few months, it's still enough time and a dramatic enough change in looks to count the two versions separately. And we also have Ridley and his costumes that change him into Meta Ridley. Considering the time travel idea and the numerous times Ridley's appearance has been altered over the course of Metroid history, he could either be going forwards or backwards in time when he switches costumes, depending on how you look at it. Moving on from these chronological costumes, there are two more unique examples of a character changing into a different version of themselves. One of them is Yoshi, who becomes Crafted Yoshi from Yoshi's Crafted World for one of his alternates. Certainly a Yoshi made out of felt is a different sort of Yoshi, yes? And finally, Little Mac has two alternate costumes that turn him into a wireframe variant, hailing from the original arcade version of Punch-Out! But I like to think of him as an evolution of the fighting wireframes from Smash Bros. Melee. He's certainly not the same Little Mac we all know and love at any rate. And with those 6 fighters, I'm finally done. For real this time. With these ones added to the count, that gives us a grand total of 151 different playable characters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Hot dang, that's a lot. Imagine if Xander Mobius had to do an announcer voice line for all of these extra fighters. That'd be insane. It's quite a difference from that classic roster of 12 characters. I bet when Masahiro Sakurai was working on the first Smash Bros., he never imagined the series would grow to this point, but I'm really glad it did. Of course, if you really want to get technical, you could take this concept even further. Sure, a lot of the characters just swap clothes when they change their costumes. But what about Yoshi's other costume selections where his whole body changes color? Are those all different Yoshis? What about the other Kirbys? There's numerous skin colors, fur colors, and even feather colors to consider. And then there's the case of the Mii fighters, who could pretty much be anyone if you try hard enough. But I won't go into that level of detail at the moment. If you all like this video though, I'd be glad to make some follow-ups where we further analyze these different fighters. And if you think I missed anything important, please let me know. I'd say that massive roster number still has some room to grow. Until that point though, this is Sparky, signing off for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you later.